Welcome to Common Hood. This your host, Simon P. And as always, I have Mr. Khali with us today. Sunny side Florida. There ain't no rain, ain't no thunder, there ain't no lightning. But hopefully information don't make you get rumbled and your feathers get rumbled. But today we're going to talk about an interesting subject. You know, as I shared before, my co-host Khali has been a urgent care, emergency care nurse for a while before he retired. And he had some things about the medicine field that brought us way back to ancient history. And we're going to talk about a subject on one of the smartest men that's known to history, Mr. Imhotep. Am I correct?
Right. Correct.
All right. I'm just going to read a piece and I'm going to let you take over.
Thank you.
Imhotep, they say the name says he who comes in peace. And the guy that was narrating this was showing Imhotep when I first heard that, what that name was. Kind of like showing Cleopatra as, you know how Cleopatra looked like?
Which Cleopatra? There were 7 Cleopatras.
Yeah, but they had Elizabeth Taylor looking like
that's Cleopatra the 7th.
Yeah, but they had the image looking at, and they kind of thwarted the image there, and I'm like, they got that image play again, talking about Imhotep, and I'm like, that's accurate, and that was just on YouTube as I was going through this here. But what Imhotep is known as being the first genius,
right,
discovered. And polymath. And basically a polymath is a person that knows many subjects. So often we specialize. So if I'm a journalism, I specialize in journalism, and we're taught that that's all we can handle. But in his case, he specialized in a multiplicity of things and different perspectives of different studies. And I'm just going to name a few of them, and I'm sure there's more. But a stonemason, a physician, an astronomer, a poet, architect, and a philosopher. I know I might have left one or two off, but I thought, wow, that's a lot. Just being a physician and an architect, that's enough right there to rack your brain.
And a high-ranking political official.
Correct.
The Grand Vizier or Prime Minister for Pharaoh Djoser, who was the first Pharaoh of the first dynasty, and his intellectual support from Imhotep directed this pharaoh's massive stone construction projects. They really kicked off the pyramid building period that ran for centuries. But these two people began that. Imhotep was also called the High Lector. In other words, a faculty position. In the Nile Valley, what people sometimes refer to today as the mystery system, they had not a 4-year curriculum or an 8-year curriculum, but a 40-year curriculum. And you graduate 40-year curriculum, and you graduate as a son of light, N-O-U-S, light. So these were deeply, deeply learned people. He was also called the head of the royal shipyard, overseer of all stoneworks. So he was an administrator of many programs and departments of a very, very rich and powerful government. That government eventually extended all the way over to India, down into Central Africa, up all around the Mediterranean at different times.
Well, I guess Imhotep came in with the Greek philosopher in that third dynasty. And that third dynasty, I don't know what the first 2 dynasties were built on, but the third dynasty is when he connected with one of the Greece guys and introduced us to the architect of that.
Well, now Imhotep was long dead by the time Hippocrates came along. They are many centuries apart. But Hippocrates went to the Nile Valley to study, as did all the people who were called the Greek father of this or that, of history, of democratic law. They all went to the Nile Valley to study. And when Hippocrates went there, he learned medical practice, and he took his oath of practice to Imhotep. Your doctors today take the Hippocratic oath, and they call Hippocrates the Greek father of medicine. Well, this Greek father of medicine took his oath to our multi-genius Imhotep.
Yeah, but that's what we're taught in school, of Hippocrates being the father of medicine, but versus Imhotep being recognized as the god of medicine, which is really,
the Greeks and the Romans called him a god of medicine. And they changed it. They called him that under the name Asclepius. Mm-hmm. So when you go to your doctor's office, ask him about the Hippocratic oath, and you'll see that symbol on your doctor's wall, the staff with the two snakes twined around it and the wings at the top. That's from the worship of Imhotep as Asclepius, god of medicine.
How do you pronounce that word? I know it was called the rod of Asclepius.
Asclepius. That's the god name. You know, the Greeks and Romans did this name change thing all the time. So that's why we call Kemet Egypt, and that's why we call the Horemarket the Sphinx. Mm-hmm. You know, Columbus was just carrying a proud tradition when he came over here and renamed people something totally different from what they called themselves. So the Greeks
make it hard to celebrate the American anniversary. Huh?
it covers identities. It covers historical trails. You lose track of who people really are. And the Egyptologists, I call them grave robbers, love to put all kind of divisions amongst the many peoples of Africa and their accomplishments. So the first in their history, the further north you were, the further closer to Europe, your higher accomplishments, but you also must be of a lighter hue.
When you mentioned earlier about Imhotep preceded Hippocrates over 1,500 years plus before he even got the information.
Right.
And during that period of 1,500 years since Imhotep's death, you're saying that the study in the Nile River came from all over.
This was a steady academic legacy covering centuries. This country thinks it's old at 250. We're about to celebrate 250 years of getting away with it. And this is infancy for an empire. Well, and this is an empire.
I don't want to ask why the messages has been miscalculated or buried.
To support the dominant paradigm. That is, who is in power writes the story, and they write the story to their own glory.
Okay, so Imhotep really influenced the advancement of society all over. And a lot of people came there to study in the region of Africa. In the Nile Valley is the point you want to make, that Hippocrates was not the father of medicine that he's given credit for, that the god of medicine, he still learned everything he learned from there. It's just that I guess the Western culture highlighted it and took credit for all the creativity or the origin of the studies.
Yeah, and it crushes science, and things have to be learned all over again. You know, brain surgeries that are practiced in the U.S. today, they think they innovated in the last 80, 100 years. But trepanation, which is making a hole in the skull to relieve bleeding on the brain and save people from brain damage, was practiced this long ago. And Imhotep, you're talking about the mid 2600s BCE. That's before the Common Era.
Right.
So this is almost 5,000 years ago. They're doing these burr holes in the skull to save people from brain damage. If they had a head injury and have a bleed on the brain, that's how you save someone's life. Today, they put in shunts if somebody has a brain bleed. So they were practicing this further back than Imhotep. He learned his medical practice coming up in the Nile Valley, and he passed it on. But he happened to become a high-powered government official at the same time.
Yeah,
he became leader. Man. He became dominant leader of his school and his discipline, partly because of his political power.
Right, he definitely had a lot of political
power. And he built the first true pyramid, the step pyramid of Saqqara, which became the tomb of Pharaoh Djoser. Djoser is also noted for uniting Upper and Lower Egypt and bringing that nation into its highest power power level from that up to that time by uniting Upper and Lower Egypt.
Yeah.
And this step pyramid was designed and built under direction of Imhotep. And this thing is like 400 by 350 feet at its base and 200 feet high. And it's like 7 stacked buildings on top of each other. The burial chamber in the center, the main entrance and ramp to that, after the pharaoh's body was put in, was filled by dropping a multi-ton stone into the passageway, and every other way toward his.
There was no cranes that dropped it.
Well, this is still, well, there were no spaceships that dropped it. Get rid of that chariot of the gods stuff.
But they say that he was able to get all of it from, I guess they had quarries in that area, and quarries have a mixture of a lot of sand and stone and minerals that it's like an open pit, and they went into these open pits.
But some of these quarries are quite a distance, so they use the Nile to transport massive rock and move it into place, and it's still contested as to how they were able to manipulate massive stone. Some people went to the Nile Valley, I think in the 80s, and tried to imitate the Great Pyramid at 1/3 scale. And with modern power equipment, they still couldn't do it.
Well, you mentioned that it had a step.
Yeah. Looks like a box. Looks like a box on a box on a box, 7 layers.
I'm making an analogy on how these steps triggered something. And do you remember the OJs?
Yeah, backstabbers.
Well, okay, the OJs there was a clear step to heaven. There's a stairway to heaven.
Climbing the stairway to heaven. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that song.
You remember it from your parents.
That's where I got it from. My parents used to have a little sign. That's where I got it from.
I remember it from high school.
Yeah. It's came out, my parents used to put a lot of soulful old school ballads back in the day.
Lucky you.
The blues and all. So I'm aware of it. We just think the hip hop kind of got ushered in and
distorted. That's another show.
But they good. At least they always honor the music. The lyrics got on, but that is another show about music right there in itself. But the 7 steps to heaven, and then that's where they got the wedding cake from. Think about it.
It's tiered. It's
tiered.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. So you can see the influence of it. Now talk about the menorah candle, which holds the 7 candles.
You're probably thinking of the Kwanzaa candle holder.
Yeah,
that's 7 candles.
They call it Kwanzaa, but the Jews call it something else. Where they have 7, they have 9 or more.
I believe it's 8 or 9 in the menorah.
So you had the 7 steps. So this is a good time to bring you about the 7 steps with the candles. We don't say it's Christmas.
Well, this number 7 has been strategic, and as surely when Maulana Karinga made up Kwanzaa out in California in the mid '60s, pulling from many traditions, the significance of number 7 has descended, through the ages.
Now you clarify the significance, because I'm seeing a little bit from Mr. Imhotep, but from a spiritual base, I thought 7 only significance was being complete. That the job is done. Right. I mean, it's over with. It's complete.
Right.
And 8 was like restarting over. I don't know all the other different numbers meaning. Is there any more meanings you can share with the significance of the number 7?
There's been a lot of conjecture about it. And it may even be that 7 layers is as much as they got done before Pharaoh Djoser passed on, and they came to use it. So, but that doesn't say that there's not a mystical connection, because why did Djoser pass at that moment? So,
right, but you had the 7 years of famine. The land must lay Pharaoh for a while. It used to be, and it used to. They say when slavery started, it used to be you completed 7 years.
Yeah, and
then you were free.
Part of Kemet's power was its agricultural science. They knew about letting fields lay fallow. In fact, they re-engineered the course of the Nile River to direct where the silt would be deposited. Every year, the Nile River would flood and deposit rich silt, and that's what made their agriculture so bountiful. But they engineered an S curve in the river, actually changed humans, changed the course of the Nile at one point to direct where the silt would be deposited. So they became the breadbasket of the world. And these are the kind of things that were happening with multi-geniuses like Imhotep millennia before Michelangelo or Da Vinci. Western education will tell you these are the first multi-geniuses. Michelangelo and Da Vinci are, thousands of years after Imhotep.
No, they came, and that's what we're trying to clarify with this brief introduction of Imhotep. That
we're trying to hit hot topics in this very complex book that I'm hung up on. So this book is so intense that and I'm glad another brother suggested the very good view to take particular persons or incidents out of here and highlight them, so that we will give people enthusiasm to dig into the hard parts of through this book.
I think you need the lucky dozen or the lucky seven that would be inclined to be as studious in order to complete.
Well, let's call Imhotep the first of 7 topics we pick out of this.
He the first of 7. So, but he's deep. You see the symbols, you've heard of it, but to get a little bit more awareness of the multiplicity of fields of study that is what's amazing to me. That I was like, hey, I can do more.
Yeah, when you listed his accomplishments, did you say astronomer? I don't know if you got that one.
No, I don't think I did say that.
And astronomer.
Yes, I did. I said he was a physician, astronomer, philosopher.
And this is wisdom.
The politician part of him.
This is wisdom handed down ad infinitum too. The Dogon tribe in Africa knew things about the star system Sirius that modern science called itself discovering, like in the mid-50s onward. But they knew details about that star. The layout of the Giza Plateau, the 3 major pyramids near Cairo, along with the Horemakhet or Sphinx, the arrangement of those models the belt of Sirius. So, and at a particular point in history, the point in history that these monuments model is several centuries before the actual construction. And again, this is a testament to the continuity of a solid intellectual pursuit over many, many centuries.
And that's interesting because we need to be reminded of that.
We need to be reminded because the colonizers that came in later, after Europe sort of perfected coercion with the development of the metal cannon barrel, the habit of colonizers was to come in, take over people's accomplishments, wipe them out, rename them, claim them, and destroy or carry away monuments. So you find the tips of many pyramids. It's called a pyramidion, a solid, shiny black piece that was the actual point at the top of the pyramid. And this could be 20 to 40 feet high. You will find those in museums and gardens in Europe. What they call Cleopatra's Needle you see in Central Park, that's an imitation of Stela in the Nile Valley, these tall towers. So much is taken away. Aristotle is given credit for more books than he could have written in 2 lifetimes after Alexander invades the Nile Valley and is burning and sacking libraries, and his general that may have killed him,
it just
Ptolemy
shows,
after that.
How competition and be the first to take claim was that important to the colonizers, correct? So that's what you pretty much saying, that the fields of study was already there in the Nile. Everybody came and converged on the Nile. Everybody was getting all the information, and to get it out to all the world, they want to be the first to get it out. As what I'm thinking is what the colonizers were about at that time, from what you're saying.
Well, to me,
it's about getting it out, be the first to take the credit.
To me, it feels like these persons who later to claim to be the superior humans actually felt inferior. And they were so awed and embarrassed, I guess, at all the great things they found. Like, why didn't we do this? Yes, we did. Yeah. They just convinced themselves that they were the originators.
Since then, it's been a flip script.
It's like calling Benny Goodman the father of jazz.
Yeah.
When what was Duke Ellington? Must have been great grandfather.
Mm-hmm. Well, they just kind of flipped the script. Like I say, being the first to serve, and in order to take the credit, they got to make where they found it at to be it be inferior, and that is how they feel. So they just put their feelings on them. At that time, it went. One more significance before you get out of here. We talked about the 7, and there was many other little small pyramids, but this was I guess the mammoth, the tower, the skyscraper.
Well, frequently
the triangle.
Frequently, the ruler would have a large pyramid,
right?
And members of his court, some of his family members, might have smaller tombs around that one.
You got any backdrop on the significance of the triangle?
The triangle is a natural supportive form in nature. I mean, what's the shape of a mountain? It's a natural supportive shape, and they had to find the right one. There were cases of pyramid construction failing. The pyramid would collapse, so they had to find the right angle. But this caused these ancients in the Nile Valley to develop spherical geometry, i.e., calculus, in order to get the angle right. And if you see the Great Pyramid today, it looks kind of rough and scaly, and that's because people have been chipping off pieces over the millennia to build other structures. But when the pyramids were fresh and new, their surface was gleaming, shining white, dazzling your eyes in the sun. They would be polished like glass, a solid stone casing on every side of the pyramid. It's up to that tip top, I told you, that polished black material. They even had a separate measuring system for that black material at the tip called the royal cubit, because they considered that really sacred.
Now I'm thinking about the comics. I'm over here thinking about some comic movies as you're spitting this out when I thought about the triangle.
Well, speaking of movies, I want to point
the god of Horus when they were saying that the right eye was, I believe it was the sun.
Well, you see, you look on the back of your dollar bill, you see that eye on top of the pyramid or house of fire. Correct. So the founders of this country, they thought through the path of Freemasonry, they thought that's where it came from. We're actually picking up lots of ancient symbols.
Yeah, and I think that the right eye was the sun in the morning, because they used to know that they before the introduction of the Christianity, they had many gods: God of sun, God of the moon, and the left eye was like.
Yeah, through most of the history of the Nile Valley Empire, there was a pantheon of gods. Akhenaten was the exception. He dragged them to monotheism, and after he passed, people tried to wipe out his memory and go back to the other pantheon. But paradoxically, he's more famous today.
Like a whole comic series. What is this? If I had my friend Joe here, he would.
Well, I'm glad you talk about what's happening popularly, because many people will have heard the name Imhotep in recent decades in a series of movies, the Mummy movies with I think it was Brendan Fraser, and they had an evil character, an evil priest,
right?
Somebody cursed comes back to life and is wreaking havoc, and they named him Imhotep. What if I made an adventure movie and I called the villain Virgin Mary or some other figure, Prophet Muhammad, some figure out of other religions? That's cruel.
Just to give another example of that before we kind of close it, they did that with the Prince of Peace. We talking about Imhotep, but we didn't say how he kind of established that religious. He was a religious guy too.
Yes, he was. Yes. Some referred to him as Prince of Peace.
Yeah, he was a Prince of Peace. But look, when Jesus came, he became the Prince of Peace.
Well, some of us today call Martin Luther King Prince of Peace. What is your impact on society?
Right. So you see, and I like how you say the Prince of Peace.
And Egypt maintained a very overall. I mean, if you think of Rome, at war somewhere, sometime about 80% of the length of time that Rome existed. Whereas the Nile Valley, their war periods were much, much more restricted. So what is the difference between civilization and empire? Civilization is broad prosperity and prosperous administration and peace. Empire is constantly taking. And that's and capitalism is based on taking, on constant transfer, constant growth, no concept of enough.
We say community, and we say capitalism. And back then it was civilization and empire.
Or civilization and barbarism.
Barbarians,
as one author put it.
So let's leave it out with this here, our last little notification on how things change. They know to say eat and be happy.
Imhotep is credited for saying eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
For tomorrow we die. With that being said, we're going to put a small capsule. I appreciate you sharing that part about Imhotep. But we're going to get out of here today.
Follow up with 6 more.
We're going to follow up again with another one. Okay. I hope it was a short, brief capsule, give a little history. And this is Simon P. with my co-host here, Khali.
And may I add one thing?
One part of the
those of y'all watching this that have the book, if you want to suggest in comments what you want to be those other 6 parts, please send it.
Oh yeah, for those that take the time to read that book. If not, it's form that book club that you was talking about. This has been the first study since it's so deep. But it is a read that you got to break it down a little bit.
Yeah. And somewhere in these 7, I'll reveal a couple of other books later on in the list.
Yeah, and it recommends a lot of books in there too. You could be reading for days if you want to know your history reading that. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe until we see you again. Peace.